Do you wonder how to have those tough, difficult conversations with employees without causing resentment, hostility, or hard feelings in the subject? Today, we're going to talk about that. Today, you're going to get tips on how to have those conversations in the right way that should help prevent future hostility or future work problems. Welcome back to Everyday Executive. My name is Kelly. I was a nurse to CEO, and I give you tips and tricks to get the life and career of your dreams. So again, when you're going to have a tough, difficult conversation, preparation is key. And you guys have heard me say this before, right? You've heard me say that preparing for something is the absolute best way you can predict what's going to happen. The first thing you need to do is you need to conquer your fears. Let's face it, no one likes conflict. No one likes to have the difficult conversation. The person giving it doesn't like it, and the person receiving it doesn't like it. So really understanding that really will help you prepare. Do your homework. Understand what are you going to be talking to this person about. Be very prepared with facts and examples and very specific in how this person either didn't meet a behavior standard, didn't meet a goal that was set, or whatever that difficult conversation is going to be. Be very, very specific and have those written down to help you when you're having those conversations. Be positive. Honestly, not every difficult conversation has to be negative. Sometimes you just need to go into it with a matter-of-fact attitude, and we just need to have a discussion. And that's okay too. Not everything needs to be a big, I'll say, event. Leave your emotions at the door. What do I mean by this? We talk about emotional intelligence and how you handle pressure, how you handle things that will trigger you, for lack of a better word, is really important to understand. Is this a topic that you're going to be talking about? Is it going to be a trigger for you? Meaning, will you have an emotional reaction to this topic or to this person, if we're being honest? Does this person, your kids, your husband, it doesn't have to be in the workplace, know your pressure points and kind of know how to trigger you? So really recognize that up front. Prepare for that up front. Know that perhaps there's going to get under your skin a little bit, or perhaps the topic will get under your skin. And just knowing that and being prepared for that will help you stay calm in that moment. Find the right setting. Find the right setting. Sometimes if it's a work related, it may not necessarily have to be at work. Often it is. It always should be private. You may need a witness if you're going down a performance improvement plan or something along those directions, then you may need a witness. And so you need to think about that as well. But it doesn't always have to be. It could be a cup of coffee in your cafeteria. It could be a cup of coffee off site. It could be, let's go grab a sandwich. I really want to have a discussion with you. Sometimes, and I have done this often, I have taken a group of people that I knew was going to be an emotionally charged topic. And I'm like, okay, we're going to go have lunch somewhere. We're going to be off site. It does a couple things. It actually decreases the emotion because being off site and being around in public, people tend to be more aware of how they react. So it offers that. It also offers just more of a relaxed setting if you really want to have a positive outcome and you really want this to be a positive thing. It really can just de-escalate situations right up the front, right off the bat. So really think about where is the best setting for this particular conversation. If you're going to have a conversation with an employee or with a family member and it's a stressful day, maybe that isn't the right setting. If you know there's things coming up and you want to get it done first thing in the morning, because maybe from your mind you can rip the Band-Aid off and get it done, but you think it might affect the rest of the productivity day, maybe that's not the right time either. So really think about what is the right time and right setting and keep it confidential. Don't be talking to others about, I have to talk with Johnny or I have to talk with Susie, unless it's somebody that you're reporting directly to or a human resource or your professional witness. Otherwise, this is a conversation between you and that employee, and that's where it should stay. Once you've had the preparation, now it's time for the actual conversation. Again, focus on the facts and the examples. If you have those written down and you have them tied to whatever expectation was met, that really leaves, for the most part, pretty little to argue against that for the employee. So, if you really are factual, that's not to say they won't argue, and that's not to say it may not be somebody else's fault. Be prepared for those kind of responses. Be prepared for, well, it wasn't me, it was, XYZ, or it wasn't me, it was so-and-so that did this. Really allow them to have their opportunity to talk and then shut it down and say, but, this is what you did to contribute to this. So really have those examples. And when you have them written down, you won't lose focus in that conversation. Show you care and really try to do that up front. I have often said, look, this is a difficult conversation, but this is a conversation we need to have. That could be an intro. Another intro could be, look, I care about you. I care about you, but you did not meet this expected outcome like what we discussed. So we really need to have that conversation. So genuinely show you care, and that often can de-escalate as well. Be clear and be honest. Try not to waver. And in the beginning, it's going to take some practice. That's why having these things written down and prepared will help you every time you move forward, and the more often you have to have those conversations. If the employee or person gets disrespectful back, and that will happen as you further in your career, you're going to have people that are going to be disrespectful back. Perhaps the topic is a trigger for them, and you need to recognize that. You need to remain calm. And this is why it's key ahead of time to recognize that this person may get worked up. You need to remain calm, especially in the anger of the heat of the moment. If you need to shut the conversation down, if it's escalating to the point where it's just not productive, then just say, you know what, Johnny, we're not going to have this conversation anymore. It's clear that you're upset, and I understand that, but I'm going to send you home for the day, and we will resume this discussion tomorrow or whenever the setting may be. That may be what has to happen. So have that written down as well, so you have a stopping point if you need to in your back pocket on how to handle that. Really listen. Listen to the person and their words. Now, if this is just a tough conversation to maybe investigate an issue, then just listen and don't have a preconceived notion ahead of time. Listen and write down their thoughts. And that way, as you work through whatever investigation you're doing, you can then come back to make a clear decision based on what you heard. You got to document. You really need to be documenting the incidents up to the difficult conversation, particularly if you're going down a performance improvement path. All of these things should be documented. And it really should not be new information to the employee. The employee should be having a feeling, or meaning you should have had those discussions perhaps ahead of time, meaning leading up to things, especially if it's multiple issues. And again, you're going down a performance improvement path. It shouldn't be a surprise. They may act like it's a surprise, and sometimes that's common reaction. Nobody likes conflict, right? We talked about that from the beginning. But it really shouldn't be a surprise, especially if you're having real-time examples that you're giving them on where they may not have met expectations. Be consistent. Make sure you're treating all of your employees the same. And that includes, setting expectations, how you're handling those expectations, how you're setting, if they fail a goal or fail an expectation, how that's going to be handled. Being consistent and not showing favoritism will also be key in building trust, so that there's not resentment that, you're favoritizing Susie versus Johnny or vice versa. That way you're enforcing the rules with everyone. Check in on other employees. Make sure you're checking in often, especially even after the conversation is done. When you're explaining to the person that, hey, here's where I need you to do better, and this is the 3 things that we're going to work on in the next week, in the next 30 days, the next 60 days. And make sure you have that shared expectation. Be very clear in how this employee is to meet those expectations. And then you follow up. Literally at that, after you agree together on that plan, you also agree to meet to make sure that you're both following up as you need to. But more importantly, the employee is getting done what you need them to get done for the company. Making that plan together also makes them feel like they're a part of that conversation, and it really can help build a positive relationship between the two of you, or three of you, or whoever many people that you need to have that conversation with. So those are really what's key to having a good relationship when you're having tough conversations. And again, the more you practice this, the better you'll get. When you know your employees, especially as you start to understand their likes and dislikes, their weaknesses and their strengths, you're going to be having those conversations in real time, because it really then doesn't become so tough. There's a trust built between you and them that when they are not meeting expectations, they trust that you're going to come to them in real time and say, hey, I noticed this wasn't done. Can you tell me why? And then you can have a dialogue at that time. Versus, perhaps if the expectations aren't being met on a regular basis, that's when you need to go into more of the performance improvement plan and set more clearer boundaries and clearer goals. I would love for you to give me a comment or a review, or subscribe. If you have any other questions, please leave those comments down below and tell me, what do you struggle with the tough conversations? If you could comment below about what is the particular thing that gives you fear in those tough conversations, and we can go more in depth on those in later videos. Thanks, and we'll talk soon.